The hotel balcony stranger. I was 16 the summer it happened. My parents had decided to splurge on a real vacation for once. Miami, Florida. We usually did road trips to see relatives or maybe a weekend at some budget motel in Wisconsin Dells, but that year my dad had gotten a bonus at work and my mom wanted something special. A real hotel, right on the beach. We checked into a 20-story high-rise overlooking the ocean. I still remember stepping out onto the balcony that first evening. The warm salt air hitting me, the sound of the waves pounding against the shore. Far below, the view was insane. Rows of glowing hotels stretching down the coastline, palm trees swaying under the neon glow of restaurants across the street, and the constant shimmer of water catching the last light of the sun. It felt like a dream. The room itself was nice but nothing crazy. 2 queen beds, a flat screen, mini fridge. My parents claimed the bed closer to the window, leaving me the other. I didn't care. I was 16, finally old enough to have a little freedom. They'd already told me I could wander the resort during the day, as long as I checked in. I thought it was going to be the best 2 weeks of my life, and honestly, it was. Until the third night. It was late. Around 1 a.m., the hotel halls were quiet, the pool below closed, the nightlife outside reduced to the occasional thump of music carried by the wind. My parents were asleep, my dad snoring soft but steady. I couldn't sleep. I never slept. Well, in hotels, the hum of the AC, the thin curtains that let in neon light, the constant awareness that there were hundreds of strangers on the other side of the walls. So I slipped out onto the balcony. I figured a little ocean air might calm me down. I slid the glass door open and stepped into the warm night. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen and faintly of smoke from the beach bars down the strip. I leaned on the railing, feeling the sticky metal against my arms, and looked out at the water. That's when I noticed in 2 balconies over, maybe 3, a man, late 40s, maybe 50s. Shirtless, his chest pale under the faint glow of the hotel lights. He wasn't lounging in a chair, wasn't looking out at the ocean like most people did. He was standing, pressed close to his own railing, facing me. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Maybe he'd just stepped out at the same time. Maybe he was lost in thought. I shifted uncomfortably, but tried to ignore him. After a few seconds, though, I realized his head wasn't moving. He wasn't gazing around. He was staring directly at me. I gave a small, awkward wave. He didn't wave back. Instead, he slowly lifted his hand almost deliberately and pressed one finger to his lips. The gesture was so deliberate, so unnatural. My stomach dropped instantly. I muttered, "What the hell?" under my breath and slipped back inside. Sliding the glass door shut behind me, my heart was pounding. It could have been a joke. Maybe he was drunk. Maybe I was overreacting. I pulled the curtains shut, trying to shake the image. The pale chest, the stillness, the finger against his mouth. But even with the curtains drawn, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there. Still staring. The next morning, the sunlight felt like safety. Everything seemed less threatening in the bright Florida sun. My parents wanted to head to the beach, so I followed, forcing myself to enjoy the sand, the water, the crowds of families. But by the afternoon, curiosity got the better of me. I wandered the halls until I figured out where his room should have been. Same side of the building, 2 balconies over from ours. I stopped by casually, pretending to look for a vending machine. The door had no "Do Not Disturb" sign. No sounds inside. No sign of life. Later, when my parents went down to the pool, I worked up the nerve to ask at the front desk. I kept my voice casual. "Hey, my buddy's staying a couple rooms down. I was wondering if you could tell me what room number." "He's in." The clerk smiled politely. "I'm sorry, we can't give out guest information." I nodded like I expected that, but then I asked, "Well, could you at least tell me if anyone's staying in 1422? She tapped at her computer, glanced up at me, then shook her head. No, sir. That unit is empty this week. My stomach turned cold. Empty? I muttered thanks and walked off, but my mind was racing. Empty. Nobody checked in. Nobody's supposed to be there. So who the hell did I see? That night, I tried to convince myself it was just some other guest, maybe visiting the wrong balcony. I stayed inside, headphones in, trying not to think about it. But sometime after midnight, I got thirsty. I pulled my headphones off, and in the quiet of the room, I heard something faint. A knock. Not at our door. At the glass balcony door. Tap. Tap, tap. I froze in bed, my throat dry, every hair on my body standing up. My parents were asleep, oblivious. Slowly, I sat up. The curtains were drawn, but I could see the faint outline of the sliding door behind them. Tap. 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 I whispered, "Dad," but he didn't stir. Against every instinct, I slid out of bed and approached the curtain. I told myself I wouldn't look, that I'd go back to bed, that it was nothing. But my hand betrayed me, pulling the fabric back just an inch, and there he was, face pressed to the glass, eyes wide, lips stretched into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His finger was there again, pressed to his lips. I stumbled back. So fast I nearly tripped over my bag. My heart was beating so hard, I thought I might faint. I didn't scream, maybe because I didn't want to wake my parents. Maybe because I was too scared to. By the time I found the courage to look again, the glass was empty. The next few days were hell. I barely left the room, barely ate. My parents thought I was just being a moody teenager, but inside, I was terrified. Every time I glanced at the balcony, I half expected to see him standing there. I started noticing things. Tiny details. The faint smell of smoke seeping in sometimes, even though my dad didn't smoke. The feeling of being watched whenever I pulled the curtain back. Once, I swore I saw the curtain in the supposedly empty balcony flutter as if someone had just moved inside. I told my parents eventually. My mom laughed it off. "Honey, you were probably half asleep. You imagined it." But I knew what I saw. Twice. It all came to a head on our sixth night. It was late again. Maybe 2 a.m. I'd been lying awake, staring at the ceiling, when I heard something faint. Not a tap this time. A sliding sound, the balcony door. I shot upright. The curtains were moving, slowly, silently. As if pushed by a hand, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The curtains parted just enough, and a pale hand slipped through, curling around the edge of the fabric. I screamed. Finally, my voice worked. My parents jolted awake, my dad jumping out of bed. He ripped the curtains open, and there was nothing. The balcony was empty. Door locked from the inside, but I know what I saw. I know what I heard. We checked out the next morning. My parents thought I'd had a nightmare, maybe sleep paralysis. But I never went back onto that balcony. Never looked directly at it again. A week later, out of curiosity, I searched online. Miami hotel balcony intruder. I found a forum. Thread, posts from years ago. Different hotels along the same strip. Guests describing a pale man, shirtless, sometimes smiling, sometimes shushing them from their balconies. Always at night. Always in rooms listed as empty. No one ever caught him. And sometimes, when I think about it late at night, I wonder if it wasn't a man at all, not something alive. Something that waits in those high-rise hotels, staring out at the ocean, waiting for someone to notice it. And when you do, it doesn't go away. The neighbor's window. I used to live in a small apartment complex outside Chicago. It wasn't anything fancy, just a row of brick buildings lined up on a quiet residential street. I was 21 at the time, in college but working nights. At a gas station. Rent was cheap, the neighbors mostly kept to themselves, and it felt safe enough. Safe. Until I started noticing the man across from me. My unit was on the 3rd floor, with a narrow balcony that overlooked a courtyard. The building across from mine was identical, so our windows lined up almost perfectly. I could see into other people's living rooms if their blinds were open, and they could see into mine. Most nights, I didn't care. I worked late, came home around 2 a.m., microwaved something half edible, and crashed on the couch with Netflix. But one night, as I was fumbling with my keys, I felt the distinct, uncomfortable sensation of being watched. When I finally got inside and tossed my bag down, I glanced across the courtyard. That's when I saw him, the guy in the unit directly opposite mine. His lights were off, but he was standing at his window, barely visible in the glow of the street lamp. Perfectly still, facing me. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. Maybe he'd been looking out at the courtyard. Maybe he was about to smoke a cigarette, but he didn't move, didn't blink, didn't break eye contact. I closed my blinds quickly, telling myself I was being paranoid. Still, it was hard to shake the image. That pale outline in the dark, standing so close to the glass, watching me. Over the next few nights, it kept happening. I'd get home late, glance across the way, and there he'd be. Always at the window, always watching. Sometimes I'd catch him leaning slightly to the side, as if trying to see around my blinds if I'd already closed them. It creeped me out enough that I mentioned it to my friend Marcus when he came over one weekend. We were playing video games, eating pizza, and I casually gestured across the courtyard. See that window? The dude over there just stares, like every night. Marcus paused the game, leaned forward, squinting. The blinds across the way were drawn shut. He shrugged. Maybe he's just bored, man. People watch their neighbors all the time. Not like this, I muttered. Marcus smirked. You sure it's not in your head? But that night, when Marcus crashed on my couch, he shook me awake at 3 a.m. Dude, he's there. Groggy. I stumbled to the window. And sure enough, the blinds across the way were cracked open, just enough. And in that narrow strip of darkness, a face. Eyes glinting faintly in the light. Locked on us. Marcus swore under his breath. What the hell, man? I closed my blinds tight. Creepy as hell, he said. But hey, it's probably harmless. Just a weirdo. But it didn't feel harmless to me. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. It wasn't just the staring. It was the timing. No matter what time I got home, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, even 4 a.m., he was there, waiting, as if he knew exactly when I'd be back. Sometimes, when I left for work in the evening, I'd see the blinds across the way shift, just slightly, like someone adjusting them to watch me leave. I tried ignoring it, but soon little things started happening. I'd hear soft knocks on my door late at night. But when I checked, the hallway was empty. I found cigarette butts on my balcony, even though I didn't smoke. Once, when I came home early, I found my blinds slightly open, just enough to give a view of my couch. I knew I hadn't left them that way. I called the landlord, asked if maintenance had come by. He said no. That's when the fear really set in. One night, after another shift at the gas station, I sat on my couch scrolling through my phone, blinds tightly shut. My apartment was dark except for the TV glow. That's when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. At first, there was only static, then faint breathing. Hello? I said, my voice shaky, more breathing. And then, quietly, a whisper, I can see you. My blood went cold. I hung up instantly, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I blocked the number, turned off every light, and sat frozen in silence, listening. Minutes later, I heard it, a faint creak. Coming from the balcony door, I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a lamp, and tiptoed toward the sliding glass door. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. The blinds were closed, but I could see a faint shadow shifting against them. Slowly moving, I shouted, "Get the fuck out of here!" Silence. Then, Nothing. When I finally pulled the blinds open, the balcony was empty, but the glass was smudged, as if someone had pressed their face against it. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I went straight to the landlord and demanded to know who lived across from me. He looked confused. "What do you mean?" "That unit's been vacant for months, still on the market." My stomach turned. "No, someone's there, every night." He shook his head. "No one's rented it. You can even check the listing online." I did. He was right. The apartment was empty. So who the hell had I been seeing? I told myself I'd start looking for a new place. But moving takes time, and I was stuck at least another month. That last week, I barely opened the blinds, barely looked outside. But one night, exhaustion got the better of me. I'd just gotten home, dropped my bag, and without thinking, I glanced across the courtyard, and there he was. Closer than ever. Not at his window, but on my balcony, pressed against the glass. Smiling. I screamed, stumbled back, knocking over the lamp. My hands fumbled for my phone, dialing 911. By the time the police arrived, the balcony was empty. They checked the courtyard, the hallways, even the roof. Nothing. No footprints, no sign of forced entry. The officers exchanged looks that told me they didn't believe me. I moved out within the week, packed everything into my car, and crashed on Marcus's couch until I found a new place. But I'll never forget those nights. The staring, the phone call, the smudged glass, and sometimes, late at night, when I glance at dark windows across from mine, I swear I still see him, standing there in the shadows, watching. The public pool locker room. When I was 17, I worked part-time as a lifeguard at our local community pool. It wasn't anything fancy, just an aging indoor facility with peeling paint, the smell of chlorine clinging to everything, and fluorescent lights that buzzed overhead. But it paid decently, and most of the job was just watching kids splash around while I daydreamed about summer ending. The thing is, I can't go near a pool anymore. Not after what I saw that summer. One of our shifts rotated weekly. Whoever was unlucky enough got closing duty. That meant staying until 11 p.m. after all the swimmers were gone, to lock up and clean. Most people hated it, but I didn't mind. The place was eerily quiet at night, the hum of the pumps echoing through the empty space. Sometimes I'd sit in the lifeguard chair and watch the perfectly still water. It was almost calming. The locker rooms, though, that was different. The pool had 2 locker rooms, men's and women's, both built decades ago. The tiles were cracked, the lights flickered, and the air was always damp no matter how much they tried to fix the ventilation. At night, when I had to go in there alone to make sure no one was hiding out, the silence pressed in heavy. That's where it started. It was a Wednesday. I'd just finished locking the main pool doors when I heard it, from the men's locker room. A splash. Not in the pool. In there, I froze. Everyone had left an hour earlier. I'd walked through the building. No one should have been inside. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing off the tiled hallway. No response. I grabbed my flashlight, a cheap one from the front desk, and pushed the locker room door open. The smell hit me first. Damp, musty, mixed with the sharp sting of chlorine. My footsteps echoed unnaturally loud as I walked between the rows of lockers. The showers in the back were dripping. Plink, plink, water running down the cracked tiles. I swept the flashlight around. Empty. I told myself it was nothing, just pipes, just my imagination. But as I turned to leave, I swear I heard something faint. A whisper, right behind me. I told myself I was overtired, hearing things. But the next week, it happened again, closing duty. Locker room check. I walked in, flashlight in hand. This time, I didn't hear splashing. I heard humming. Soft, low, a tune I couldn't place. Coming from the showers. Every hair on my arm stood on end. "Who's in here?" I called, my voice shaking. Pools closed, no answer. Just the humming, steady and calm. I forced myself to walk to the back, toward the showers. My shoes squeaked on the wet floor. And that's when I saw it. A face, peering around the edge of one of the shower stalls, pale, eyes too wide, locked directly on me. I shouted, stumbling back, nearly dropping the flashlight. The beam jerked, hit. The wall swung back, and the stall was empty. No one there, but the floor was wet, as if someone had just stepped out. I didn't want to tell anyone. Who would believe me? That I saw a face in an empty locker room? But the fear lingered. Every time I walked past that door, I felt it, like someone was standing just on the other side. Waiting. The third time it happened, I almost quit. I just finished sweeping when I heard it again. Not humming this time, whispering. At first, it was too low to make out, then clearer. Don't look. I froze in place, my chest tight. The whisper came again, closer this time. Don't look. I bolted. Left the broom, left the lights on, slammed the door behind me and didn't go back in until the morning, when I told my manager the next day that I thought maybe someone was sneaking in at night. He frowned. That's impossible. We lock the doors from the inside. Nobody can get in after closing. I didn't argue, but deep down I knew it wasn't nobody. The last time I saw it was late July. I'd been dreading closing duty all week, hoping someone would trade shifts. No one did. That night, everything felt heavier. The pool deck seemed darker, the silence thicker. I told myself I'd check the locker room quickly and get out. I pushed the door open, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the damp air, flickering slightly. At first, nothing. Just rows of lockers, puddles on the tile. Then, a sound, dripping, fast, irregular. Like water falling, but heavier. I followed it, my chest tight. The showers. Water was pouring from one of the stalls, though the knobs were turned off. The puddle spread across the floor, seeping toward me. And then I heard it. The humming, low, steady. Coming from inside that stall. My hands were trembling so badly, the flashlight shook. The beam bouncing against the tiles. Who's there? I demanded, though my voice cracked. No answer. Just humming. Slowly, against every instinct screaming at me to run. I raised the flashlight and shone it into the stall. And there it was, the same face. Pale, water dripping down its skin. Eyes wide and unblinking, mouth stretched into a grin too big, too wrong. But this time, it wasn't just a face. A body leaned against the wall, soaked, hair plastered flat, hands clutching the tiles as if struggling to hold itself up. Its lips moved, humming that tune, even though its chest didn't rise or fall. I stumbled back, heart hammering, and the thing stepped forward. One wet, heavy step. Then another. Water splashed across the floor with each movement, spreading faster than it should have, like it was pouring straight out of the thing. I turned and ran, the locker room echoing with the sound of my footsteps, and behind them, the steady, wet slap of something following. I didn't look back. I burst out onto the pool deck, slammed the door shut, and didn't stop running until I was outside in the night air, gasping, shaking, my shirt plastered to my back with sweat. I quit the next day. Didn't even pick up my last paycheck. I haven't set foot in that pool since. I heard it shut down a couple years later. Something about mold and structural issues. They demolished the whole building, but sometimes, when I pass by the empty lot where it used to stand, I swear I still hear it. The faint sound of dripping water. And if I listen closely enough, that same low humming.